As promised, the former Commissioner of Police, Gary Griffith, joins me on the Zoom line. Always a pleasure. Thanks for the time. Good morning, Gary.
Good morning. Always my pleasure.
You know, I want to ask you because I'm seeing the developments out of Tobago. We just had the THA budget, and even before the budget, there was this pivot, this focus on creating this THA police force, likened to what we have seen via the regional corporations here in Trinidad. I'm eager to know what's your particular perspective and take on that request, that development. It's not one to happen overnight. Obviously, it will have to get parliamentary consideration and all that. But just your general view on that particular pivot. You seeing that as something positive for Tobago?
Yeah, definitely. It is indeed a step in the right direction. Unfortunately, every time someone comes up with a policy or a program, people automatically will state, well, that is not the be-all and end-all. It's not everything. But it is a step in the right direction. And to clarify, this equates with the municipal police in Trinidad. Whereas in Trinidad, we have the municipal police where that unit reports directly to the mayor, the chairman, or those persons that control that regional corporation. And it will assist in Trinidad that type of policing as it pertains to dealing with traffic congestion, improper parking, patrolling the markets, the streets, and so forth. And there's direct interaction between the mayor/chairman and the corporation with those officers. This will equate with that in Tobago, because Tobago, obviously, they don't have municipal corporations. So that THA police unit equates with what you will see with the municipal police in Trinidad. And we have seen the value of the municipal police. So it is obviously something that can assist a lot in certain places in Tobago, because now the THA will have a direct interaction with that unit. The disadvantage is what we would have seen in Trinidad, where the municipal police, there's not that direct relationship with the TTPS, because those officers, as I said, they report to the politicians, whereas the TTPS reports directly to the commissioner, as ridiculous as it is. I had to bring a proper synergy to make it effective, because sometimes one hand will not know what the other is doing. And the reason I'm saying that is that I hope that in this situation, when it is that they're doing the terms and references, they will ensure that this unit will have some direct relationship to report or to have some degree of coordination and collaboration with the TTPS who are assigned to Tobago. Failing to do that, you may get duplication of effort, and you will not be able to utilize this unit in an effective manner as it should.
Understood. Glad for the perspective. I want to pivot now to developments out of the administrative building there in Port of Spain for the TTPS. Stephen Williams is back. From my due diligence over the years, I've recognized he is a technocrat, a man with lots of knowledge as it pertains to, information gathering. A very bright mind, Mr. Williams, of course, now retired top cop, acting top cop, and back as a consultant to assist the current top cop. Your take on that development?
Well, as I stated, and some people they took offense to it, if Stephen Williams could bring any degree of assistance to help Ulla Christopher, who is failing miserably, well, then it should be something that is welcomed. It shouldn't be something that you're criticizing and condemning someone for if they're willing to provide support, advice, assistance, whatever you want to call it. In fact, you would have heard that I started this 2 years ago when I said I was willing to assist the Prime Minister, the Minister of National Security, and the Assistant Commissioner of Police to just, and even if it could assist in reducing one murder, one rape, one kidnapping, I would have done my job as a citizen of this country. So Stephen Williams offering to us to provide assistance, it should not be something that is deemed as to condemn Stephen Williams. My concern is that when he was first asked about this last year, he said no, he was not providing any, he's not an advisor to Ulla Christopher, knowing fully well that he was being paid as a consultant, advisor, consultant, tomato, trying to play with words and not state at the time, no, I'm not an advisor, but I'm being paid $50,000 a month by Ulla Christopher. That's what he should have said. He immediately said, no, I'm not an advisor, and left it like that. Ulla Christopher, likewise. This is where ethics come in. If it is that you know what the question is being asked by the media, you don't play with words to say, well, I'm not an advisor, but I was really a consultant. You know exactly where the media was going, and you should have explained and be honest, be open, be transparent. And if you can't do that as a previous and a present commissioner of police, what do you leave for the rest of the police officers? So it has to do a lot with ethics and honesty.
Does this question, let's say, his integrity based on, I guess, this play of words? Because advisor, consultant, it more or less seems to be the same thing, but it's just a different, I would say, designation. What's your take on the play of words and the integrity behind it?
Well, again, because if the media asks, are you an advisor to Ulla Christopher? And you say no, you should have automatically stated, well, no, there's a difference with an advisor and a consultant. However, I'm a consultant. You know exactly what the media was getting at. Do you have some degree of interaction, involvement, working relationship with Ulla Christopher? And you said, no, I'm not an advisor, and then try to state an advisor is somebody who's paid monthly, but a consultant is paid pertaining to when he works. Come, I mean, he could have been honest. But besides that, the concern lies, and I listened to the Social Welfare Association praising and blowing trumpets for Stephen Williams providing this. This is a country that the one thing that you can pump, we lose tens of millions, and I say lose, in consultancy throughout all the ministries, because it is the one avenue where you can hire anyone without very little qualification, track record, background, and you hire that person because they're closely aligned to you. And there's no checks and balance. When it is we must put consultancy on one where, listen, we must measure your performance, we must make you accountable, and we must see what it is you are providing. In addition, what it is that you bring to the table in the first place. It is similar to state boards. We have 150 state boards, and probably 90% of them do not have training, qualification, or knowledge in the field where they were appointed, with their only qualification being the party card in their back pocket of the government sitting. This situation here, Stephen Williams and Ulla Christopher, I will put them on par with each other. They are good administrators. But what is required now for the police service is hardline crime prevention, hard targeting, hard policing, law enforcement, high visibility, a rapid response, a police leader who has the understanding to be on the ground and understand the tactics, the operations, the strategy. So if it is you bring in Stephen Williams and Ulla Christopher, and this is not to knock them. There's forces for courses. They are good persons, pen pushers, garbadine, being up in the admin office with a cane. If you want it, that is not the problem now with the police. It is not administrative problems. It is tactical, technical, and operational problems we have. So that's why not a Dulal Chan? Why not a DCP4? These were tactical DCPs of operations, but you're bringing an administrator to help with someone who may be administratively sound. It doesn't make much sense. So the problem lies with the police service is dealing with policing, the operations, the patrols. What we have now in the police service is that their biggest operation is wait for a public holiday to have a roadblock, because Ulla Christopher may not have that technical capability to deal with the operational aspects of the policing. And likewise, you'd have seen that with Stephen Williams. Both of them, their operational plans have always been to pray, to ask God for forgiveness, to blame the community, or to ask the community, society, and to help, ask the media for help. So that is what is required. Someone with the technical ability to deal with operational policing, not an administrator be providing consultancy for an administrator.
Yeah, and I'm looking at, of course, even further afield where scrutiny yet again on the TTPS, where we're hearing the talk again of this polygraph testing. I'm looking at the comments of the Social Welfare Association President, ESP Gideon Dixon. And he says, why is this polygraph test solely towards the TTPS? Why don't they open this up to politicians, the judiciary, to, well, I would imagine, other arms of the national security framework, customs, Coast Guard? So he is up in arms. They're going to get legal advice on it. Do you think this polygraph testing for the TTPS is, one, a good thing, and two, do you agree with ACP Dixon that if indeed they're going to go down that road, it should be across the length and breadth of those who hold a public office? So it's a two-part question. Is it a good look? And should it be something that is commonplace across the board?
Yeah, and that's the main question this morning, I believe. And the answer is yes or no. Mr. Dixon and I had our sparring session when I first introduced this into the police service. It was the first time it was ever done, similar to the introduction of body cameras, pepper spray, dashboard cameras, all these things they removed after I left. So when I realized we had a serious problem with criminal activity within the police service, a very small percentage, but the best way for me to improve the police service, which is what caused public confidence to move from 14 to 59%, and now it's gone back down to 8%, put in systems to try to weed out the rogue elements in the police service, especially in strategic areas that can affect policing. So that is what I did. So, for example, all the elite units, whether it be special branch, the special operation response team, the cybercrime unit, all of these, you must be polygraphed. failure for you to want to be polygraphed, I cannot take disciplinary action on you, but I could have you reassigned. That is nothing that you can do.
But Mr. Griffith, you have to recognize too, this polygraph thing, it's considered still pseudoscience. At the end of the day, it's not 100% accurate.
Yeah,
and people could go on that machine, you could be nervous naturally, and you could be deemed as being, I guess, wherever the readings are, they might deem you as, listen, this person is not fit. But it could just be, I guess, the environment, and it's pseudoscience. Is this the real and the only way to really find out who is good from who's bad?
That's what I was coming to, because you could have asthma, you could have a short breath on that morning, or you could just be, you had a problem at home. So there are situations that can positively skewed, but it is of value. It is used worldwide for specific units. If you want to get into the CIA, the FBI, the DEA, there's a degree of polygraph testing for elite units. And even when I found that we were getting concerns about human trafficking, illegal entry of drugs and weapons into our southwestern peninsula, I started doing the same for certain stations. And lo and behold, one station, almost 98% refused to be polygraphed. And the simple question, do you financially benefit from criminal activity of illegal drugs, weapons, and human trafficking? And they refused. So what I could do is reassign them to the middle of Trinidad whilst monitoring them. But you cannot take disciplinary action, because that test, it is not going to be admissible in court. It cannot be used to discipline someone, to condemn someone, to suspend someone. So the politicians, remember, these are 41 civilians with little training or knowledge in law enforcement. So they will come up with something and not realize the repercussions. But it is something that I pushed heavily as the Commissioner of Police. It worked. It assisted me tremendously in weeding out the rogue elements. There had certain police officers we knew that would have been running drug blocks and whatever. And you can use that, but you cannot say that you will use this to discipline a police officer. You cannot use this to say that you will fire a police officer. But you can reassign police officers and not use them in specific locations. Also, it is very expensive to try to say that we're going to continue to polygraph police officers annually. This is going to cost tens upon tens of millions of dollars. It is not done anywhere else in the world that every police officer is going to be polygraphed on an annual basis. But I need to add, however, whereas it is value, I agree with Mr. Dixon about leadership by example. I could never be a Minister of National Security and telling the 7,000 police officers, you must be polygraphed, and I'm not prepared to be polygraphed myself. I cannot be the chair of the National Security Council and pushing something, and I'm the chair of the National Security Council where the police come under, and I refuse to be polygraphed myself. So this is where I am insisting and asking for all politicians, at least political leaders, we must be polygraphed. If you want to serve the country, if you want to be chair of the council that controls the police service, you must be polygraphed to ask the simple questions. Do you financially benefit from crime? Have you been involved in criminal activity? Have you been involved in aiding and abetting in criminal activity? Have you benefited financially in public office based on criminal activity that you are taking part in? That is a simple question. And even when I was polygraphed for Commissioner of Police, I realized how this thing can be so biased with political intimidation and manipulation, where the questions were being asked prior to me being hooked up. So the lies by those politicians to say that I pulled out the wires, that's a total lie. I was fully polygraphed, and because I was fully polygraphed, those results, it allowed me to come first by 94%, 20% more than Earl Christopher, inclusive of the polygraph test. So I was fully polygraphed. I also went to Florida to be fully polygraphed by the top polygraph experts in Florida that deals with law enforcement, asking if I was ever involved in criminal activity, if I have ever financially benefited from criminal activity. I can show it to the media. And this is what the politicians should do. You can't ask someone below you to do something that you're not prepared to do yourself. This is leadership by example. And I'm asking this morning for all senior politicians to be prepared to be polygraph tested and let the country see that you are prepared to lead by example.
Mr. Griffith, sincere thanks as always for the commentary, and we'll see how things pan out in the weeks and months ahead. All the best and have a safe one today.
Take care.